Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Ditson's Dugout. Me and Hitch are here once again to talk about the disaster that was the Governor's Cup on Wednesday night. Yes, I didn't get my day straight there. So on Wednesday night, and then the series coming up against Auburn. This is do or die time for the Ole Miss Rebels with any postseason aspirations. We got to get three here this weekend. We'll dive into all of that here in just a little bit as well. Before we get started, let's tell you about Rhythm, just like we do each and every week on this here show. Rhythm is the absolute best sports handicapping out there. They have NBA, NFL. Uh, their golf launched right before the Masters, so you have that option. College football, college basketball. A lot of really, really good stuff there with Rhythm. If you want to go download it, you can have a 7-day free trial to build your own models or have their AI backed data build models for you for whatever sports
Mm-hmm.
you want to use. NBA playoffs are going on right now. Use your models to predict player props as well, and they have that feature in the NFL when it gets going again as well. So that's a nice little addition to Rhythm to help make you a little bit of money throughout the season when your teams aren't performing the way that you want them to. At least you can fall back on making some money. That's kind of what we've depended on here this baseball season. As pissed off as me and Hitch have gotten throughout the year. So y'all go give them a try. That is RITHMM in the App Store, Google Play. Like I said, sign up and you get 7 days free to test it out and win a little bit of money. So Hitch, we're back again. Before we get into Auburn, you kind of heard me vent a little bit before I hit record. I'm glad I got that out before I hit that record button. Last night was an absolute fucking disaster. It's the only way I can put it. I'm so tired of this team shooting themselves in the foot when they play such good baseball for the majority of a game. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Takeaways here, the inconsistency offensively is really starting to wear on me a little bit. We're 1-1 going into the eighth inning there. And you know what? I'm going to back up a little bit and I'm going to criticize Bianco here on this one.
Oh,
Unless
okay.
there
Here we go.
is and unless there is some injury that has yet to be reported, I would love an explanation as to why you take your best hitter, Ethan Leger, out of the game and replace him with Trayson Hughes in the sixth inning in a 1-1 game. And it's not a slight at Trayson. I've been
Mm-mm.
banging the drum for Trayson
Yeah.
all year long. I want him out there. His defense is so good. Like last night, if you're not going to play Braden Randall and you're going to put Luke Hill back at shortstop, bring Leger in, play him at second base, hide Jackson Ross out in left field, and get Trayson out there in right field where he can roam around and make plays. And that's what he's best at defensively. And you're not going to lose anything offensively with him in there if you have that kind of lineup construction. But we end up pulling Ethan Leger in the sixth inning, sticking Trayson Hughes in left field where he's even less valuable.
Mm.
At least move Jackson Ross to left field and stick Trayson Hughes out and right. Uh, didn't even do that. I can come up with an explanation for almost everything Mike Bianco has done as the Ole Miss head coach. I have nothing for this.
Yeah, I was surprised um, because I wasn't paying attention to the TV. I was, or no, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention to what they were saying. I think I had my headphones in and I was just watching the TV and I was like, wait, did he just say, or is that Trayson Hughes like batting after what, Fisher in the three? I was like, well, that's why did Leger must be hurt. I haven't seen anything or
Yeah,
heard anything.
I
Yeah,
hadn't
I
seen the
don't have a
first
good
thing about him being
yeah,
hurt.
I don't have a good
So I have
explanation
no
for
idea.
it. I'm like I've said before, even if Trayson Hughes didn't have a hit all year long,
Mm-hmm.
he still saves runs in the outfield with his defense. And so, my opinion is if you're bound and determined to have, Jackson Ross's one walk per game uh, in the lineup and a bomb every other week or something, then let him DH and
Figure something
or
out.
yeah, or something like that. I don't know, but regardless, the inconsistency in hitting, leaving guys on base, and the error. It felt like last night as I was watching that game, and it was 1-0. every inning it felt like, okay, well, what inning is it going to be where we, make an error or make a big error and it bites us. And, when you look at that 8th inning, right, it was hit by pitch, 2-base wild pitch error, pass ball, whatever you want to call it. And then almost an incredible play by Udermark and Hill and Furness on that turn. They almost got out of it. I don't think
almost got it.
I don't think the announcers did a good enough job. You criticize Bianco, I'm going to criticize Lance Cormier. I don't think he did a good enough job of explaining like how when Udermark fielded that ball, his body, like he had to make a throw across his body. That was a very difficult play, and he made it look really easy. Luke Hill turned it, just that slide coming into you, the throw gets away. Furness did a great job of keeping it in front of him, but that would have gotten us out of the inning, and it didn't. So, and right then we were beat. We were beat then.
Yeah. That's kind of the way the entire season gone. Totally agree with you there with Udermark, though. Great play on him, and that's the long way to turn a double play too, right? And
it wasn't hit hard, right? I mean, yeah.
No. I mean, it was going to be a very tough double play to turn. What was going to take a really, really good throw from Luke Hill to turn the runner bearing down on him and all. I have no issues with that one. That would have been hard to turn. Didn't get it done. The fact is, he shouldn't have been on third base to score in that position anyway, because Eli Birch completely forgot that there was a runner on first when that wild pitch occurred. You could tell as soon as it bounced away, he acted like he was going to try to get a ball from the umpire to get back to the pitcher right there. Dude, you've got a guy hauling ass around the bases right now. How about you go get the damn ball and try to throw him out? And he just stood there and looked for a minute. And I've never seen in 24 years Mike Bianco use a mound visit to go out to talk to anybody besides a pitcher. And he never looked at the pitcher a single time, never looked at a fielder the single time. He was locked into Eli Birch and letting him know how badly he screwed up in that position. And that's what ended up getting us beat. And that's what keeps me so pissed off, is that these are the kind of mistakes over and over and over again that have cost us games this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first mistake was the hit by pitch. I think Mason Morris had the guy. I think he was ahead in the count. He may have had 2 strikes on him. I know he had 1 strike. And that mistake. But yeah, that is about as inexcusable as it could get. Is there in the 8th inning, even though it's not a conference game, it is a in-state rival in the Governor's Cup. You have to have your head in the game, and I used to hear it all the time. I don't know that I hear it very much now. Is for a fielder, which is including the catcher, you have to know, you have to be ready. If the ball is hit to me, what am I going to do with it? Right? What is the situation? Is there a runner on first, runner on second? If it's hit to me, how many outs are there? Do I just step on third? Do I step on third and throw it across? What do I have to do? Same thing with the catcher, right? You have to know, hey, there's a guy on first. If I block it, which, I mean, it was a tough pitch to block anyway. I don't know. I think they ruled it a wild pitch instead of a pass ball. You have to go get the ball.
Yes.
It is
no issues with it getting away from him. It was going to be a hard one to keep in front of. It was a wild pitch.
Yeah.
Lackluster effort to get to it, which gave them an extra 90 feet, is what ended up costing us there.
Well, I'll tell you what, just a quick story. I have been in Eli Birch's shoes, not on a college field. But there was one time where my high school coach got so mad at me that he called time. I was a catcher. He called time and used the entire mound visit to talk to me in not such a nice way. It's the loneliest feeling in the world. Oh, 100% deserved it. I was having trouble throwing it back to the pitcher without getting too far. Not over his head. I kept short hopping him. I kept short hopping him. And it was whatever. And my coach said, time, I don't care if you throw it into center field. Do not short hop him again. The next pitch. The next pitch, I caught it. Well, I caught the next pitch. Caught the next pitch. I took a crow hop and I threw it into center field, and our center fielder caught it. And that's when I got up and down one side and down the other. Yeah, it was. It's a lonely feeling. Yeah, it was bad. But to say that, the only reason I say that is because it is very rare for a coach to call time and use a mound visit to talk to someone other than the pitcher, or to talk, or not talk to everybody. Yeah, that was uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah. So you had the exact opposite of the catcher in Major League Three then, with the buzz where he kept overthrowing everybody.
Yeah.
You're
Well, it
sitting
was
there
Major
short
League Two.
hopping and
It was Major League Two with Rube. He kept throwing it over the pitcher's head, and they put him on like penthouse something to
oh
read,
yeah,
and
that's
that
right.
that helped him. It
Yeah,
didn't help me. I guess
because you
Coach
drive.
Taylor. I guess Coach Taylor chewing my ass is what helped me. But yeah, I didn't throw it over his head. I kept short hopping.
Yeah. Something similar there though. So, but yeah. Long story short, Rebels kind of shoot themselves in the foot again. Cost us another really
Yeah.
important game. Really sucks. Really would have been nice to have that kind of momentum going on the road to Auburn. We'll get into them now. They're dead last in the SEC. They're 21-22 overall, 3-18 in the league. Have obviously really struggled. When you're 3-18, there's no way around it. You're going to really struggle. At their last few weekends, they played at LSU last weekend, lost 2 out of 3. Before that, got swept at Mississippi State. And then swept against Kentucky, lost 2 out of 3 against Tennessee, a team that has really had trouble getting any sort of momentum going. And something me and you talked about right before we started recording too. We didn't even bring it up throughout the week as we were looking at these teams, and the first words out of your mouth were, "Oh, they're not so different from us," right? Like these are two
Yeah.
teams that when you start looking at numbers, there's not a whole lot of things that differentiate these two, which kind of causes a little bit of concern for me going into the series this weekend, knowing we've got to get 3. You have to get 3 this weekend.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know that we do. Well, 3 for what? To make it to postseason, or 3 because
Postseason.
Okay, all right. Well, I have completely put
Yeah,
that dream out of my
we're
head.
talking about 2 different things. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But look, okay, so real quick, let me run through that just to get the postseason part out of the way. If you have to sweep Auburn, you have to take 1 against Texas A&M, and you have to take 2 in Baton Rouge. If you don't do any of those, it's over with. Okay, and even if you do all of that, since you lost that game against Mississippi State on Wednesday night, now you've got to go to Hoover and win 1, maybe even 2 games to solidify your spot. So if you want to know how Ole Miss makes a regional this year, I just laid it out. If one of those things don't happen, you can hang it up because it's over. Because look, if you don't take 3 against Auburn this weekend, God bless you if you think we're taking more than 1 against Texas A&M.
That's the big one. Yeah,
so,
well, I've completely put the dream of making a regional out of my head, and I've just started looking at the SEC tournament. I think we've got our work cut out for us just to make that with the way Missouri is playing, right? And who Missouri has left. Missouri's got South Carolina, Auburn, and State left, right?
Yeah.
South Carolina, not a pushover. State, not a pushover, but definitely beatable. Whereas we've got A&M and LSU left, and then LSU
and at LSU.
LSU's got to go to Alabama, and then we've got them at home, or they have us at home. So when you look at it, if you don't at least win the series against Auburn, because I don't think we win a game against Texas A&M. I think we lose that series there.
Because I don't think you go to Baton Rouge and sweep either.
No, I don't either. But what I'm saying is if we take 2 from Auburn, none from A&M, and then we take 2 from LSU, I think
that's it.
That may get us into the SEC tournament. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. The only reason I'm bringing that up,
that'll be. You're saying
it would put us. It would.
9?
Yeah, it would put us at like 11 and 19. And so
that should get you in Hoover because you're also taking wins away from LSU that last weekend.
But Missouri, right? Missouri could jump us, right? Because I think they're only 1 game behind us, and they have those 3 easier opponents left, I would say. But the only reason I say is I think that us getting to Hoover is going to come down to that LSU series, and we're going to have to, at minimum, win the series.
Yeah, no, 100% agree there.
Auburn,
have to take that.
I got off on
Yeah,
a tangent. Auburn. Yeah. So before we got on here, it's actually funny. I was working very hard looking at TikTok, and I swiped and I came across a guy who was wearing an Auburn shirt and he was doing a live, and it said, "Ask me about Auburn sports." So I hopped in there and I was like, "Tell me about the baseball team, man." And it was a very short conversation because what he said was, and I quote, "Maybe we should just ride this one out. Our pitching stinks." So that's what I
So
have
that's
for
the
the
entire
Auburn
scouting
Tigers.
report.
That's the entire scouting
Yeah.
report from him. But
Okay,
you look at their
I
numbers.
will actually piggyback off that real quick then, if you don't mind, about their pitching stinking, because
Please,
I've got a few stats here of where they rank in the SEC so far
please.
this year. Let's see, ERA. This is out of 14 teams. Keep in mind, ERA they are 12th. Strikeouts they are 13th. They have the third most wild pitches. And then they are dead last in opponents' batting average, hits allowed, and home runs allowed. Now, with the inconsistent offense that Ole Miss has, the hits allowed and home runs allowed might not be that big of a deal. Now we're looking at maybe we can steal some bases with some wild pitches or something and get a big inning going. Maybe something like that can work out for us.
Yeah, and I think looking at it, the guys who it's kind of the same story as we looked at last week when you look at their
Yeah.
splits. Um, the averages left, except the averages are a little bit better than what they were
Yeah.
last week against those guys. The averages aren't terrible. I think that they are right around like 260 and 280, right? Maybe 260 against righties, 280 against lefties. The thing that really jumps out is the home run number again. They give up a bunch of home runs to lefties. So again, I think you could see Furness, Fisher, have big weekends, maybe some big power weekends. But that's not to say that the right-handed guys can't contribute as well. Like I said, if the league is hitting above 250 against you, I mean that's getting on base at a pretty good clip nowadays. And so I think against right-handers, the league's hitting 265 or so against Auburn, and one more thing that the guy said, this is their third pitching coach in 3 years, right? They've changed pitching coaches every year for 3 years, and he was just like, I don't think that's the problem. And so, which leads me to believe maybe their pitchers,
Well,
like we
see, the
hope, aren't
problem
very good, and
is,
we can put up some runs.
the problem is they didn't hang on to Tim Hudson, right?
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Because he was there coaching them. Yeah, that's their problem. Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at the splits too. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like you said, a lot of the same. They
Oh,
walk
I
a
had them
lot more
flipped. I'm
lefties,
sorry.
but the K percentage is up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I had them flipped.
but the
296 batting
batting,
average righties, 260
yeah,
lefties. Yeah, I had
that's
them
a
flipped.
uh-huh. Yeah, you actually do handle lefties a little bit better, but not from a home run standpoint, right? You're looking at
Mm-hmm.
let's see, almost
500 less at bats.
400 fewer batters faced, 300 fewer at bats, and there's only one fewer home run from a lefty.
Yeah. So,
So
I mean,
yeah,
I
that's
think, well, and two,
power problem.
Auburn's field, Auburn has a high fence in like left field, right? Don't they? Or am I imagining that? Maybe I wonder if right field may be
Honestly,
a
I'm not
power.
sure.
I wonder if right field may be a power alley too, which would be good for guys like Furness and Fisher and um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't. I wish that I could predict this lineup. That's one thing I was going to ask you. One of the over unders I was going to ask you. How many different lineups over under 1.5
Yeah,
you think we're going to get this week?
that if you knew how many lineup over unders I had lined up for you too, about all right, this guy's starting to over under a half a game.
Yeah.
I'm the exact same way because I don't really know how. I know how I would construct it. I don't know how Mike's going to end up constructing this thing because I've just gotten to the point to where I'm tired of seeing the same thing over and over and over again. And if you're not going to hit and you're not going to score runs, then why are you trying to constantly run out this makeshift optimal hitting lineup when they're not hitting. At least give your pitchers something to fall back on. Get your best defenders out there, and just see if you can win some close, low scoring games at this point. Now, I think Saturday is in particular the one you need to look at, to where I think that's where Trayson Hughes needs to get out into right field with Liam Doyle on the mound.
Yeah.
I feel like that the way he pitches, he likes attacking up in the zone with that fastball, and the way that Auburn tries to hunt for a home run offensively, that's really about all they have.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% right with Liam. I mean, the way that he's a strikeout fly ball, guy,
Yeah.
and so the last thing that you need is guys, losing the ball in the sun or losing it in the high sky or just flat out dropping it when that happens. But at the same time, you're going to have Friday night. You've got Riley Maddox, who's going to get you a lot of ground balls. I think we put our best defense out there and hope that the offense hits. That's what I would do.
Yeah. Like, okay, so talking about Friday night, I think that's where you got to get Braden Randall into the game, get him back at shortstop, move Luke Hill back to second. That's your best up the middle combination you're going to be able to field, right? Shortstop and second base there with those two. That's the best we've seen so far. So I would get Randall back in for then. But again, on Saturday when Liam Doyle pitches, I'm pulling Leger into second, and I'm going to put Ross out in left field, and I'm going to put Trayson Hughes out in right field, and just hope they don't hit it to left. Look, Jackson hasn't been bad out there. You can hide somebody in left field, and he would be much more valuable as a left fielder than he is as a right fielder, because you need a guy out there in right field. Trayson does such a good job at controlling the running game as well, as far as picking up extra bases. He's got, what is it, 6, 7, 8 outfield assists so far this year in limited playing time so far. A really good arm. So you've got to get him in there at least for that Saturday game. So that was one of them I was going to ask you. So I'll go ahead and ask you, over under a half a start for Trayson Hughes this weekend.
I'm taking
one game.
I'm taking the over. I think he has to start at least one game.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying that for a couple of weeks now, and Mike just keeps proving me wrong, which makes me believe it's something other than playing time, like he's in the doghouse or something. I don't know. But I'm going to take over.
That's the case, then why do you put him in Wednesday night in the sixth inning, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's why none of it makes sense.
Yeah. I'm taking over a half game start. I don't know that he completes the game. We may pinch hit for him at some point, but
may do it.
Start. Yeah, I think he absolutely starts a game. He needs to.
So. All right. So looking at the splits here with Auburn as well, if I'm not mistaken, we already talked about it. They handle lefties a little bit better offensively, right? It's a 382 average with a 742 OPS. Not a whole lot of power, only 19 home runs and 497 at bat. So, I mean, it tracks almost equal with the right-handed pitchers. But does that concern you at all Saturday with Liam Doyle on the mound?
It doesn't. I mean, because when you look at it, they've only got the numbers kind of line up. They're not inflated like Auburn's are with the home runs, right? And with Liam Doyle being a fly ball guy, I don't know that they're going to hit the ball over the fence enough to hurt him. If he doesn't throw strikes and put guys on and the guy hits the ball in the gap, that's a different story. But it doesn't, because of the way that Liam Doyle pitches, I think he pitches well to both sides, right? He has a plan, no matter if you're right-handed or left-handed, right? If you're right-handed, he's going to bust you up and in with that fastball and that cutter, right? And try to drop that changeup on you. And every once in a while, he will try to backdoor you with that slurve, slide, whatever breaking ball he's got. And if you're left-handed, you're going to see a lot of that pitch away. And so as long as he's hitting his spots and staying in the zone, I'm more worried about Friday night and Riley Maddox pitching well, and you get a couple of boots and off to the races for Auburn. That's what I'm more worried about.
Yeah, and that kind of seems to be the deal with Riley Maddox. He seems to be really good through at least 5 innings every single weekend, even though you'll look up at box scores and see an 8 spot in the fourth or something like that. But it's because he doesn't get any help behind him. With the extreme ground ball pitcher that he is, you've got to be able to have guys behind him that can field it if he's going to induce contact to the rate that he does. All right, so my next over-under for you, with Liam Doyle, with the left-handers in mind and all that, they do hit a little bit better off of them. Over under 5 2/3 innings. I think that's a hard one myself.
I hate this one.
You're right at the line there, I think.
I'm going to go over. I think that if Liam Doyle pitches the way that he did against Tennessee by controlling the zone, right? And I think sometimes, and this may just be his body language, I'm not sure, but I think sometimes he shows his frustration if he doesn't get a call, which I get it. There have been a bunch of calls this year where I have shown my frustration when he didn't get it. If he doesn't let that cloud, kind of sit over him on the mound, and he's upset that he didn't get a couple of calls and just, comes out and pitches well. I mean, I think he, because we know how efficient he can be, right? Early in the year, he was throwing like 94 pitches and 72 of them were strikes. And Auburn doesn't walk much, right? I think that Liam Doyle, I say over. I say he goes 7+.
Okay. Yeah, that would obviously be a huge boost then, especially with the bullpen. It's kind of really trying to find their feet right now. They're really scuffling there out of the pen, which is another frustrating part of the year. Seemed to be such a huge weapon for us. But then you get into SEC play, and it's not near the weapon we thought it was, obviously. So that obviously, so we do need some length, though. I think that's the big thing to take away here. And you really saw Mike try to set things up on Wednesday against Mississippi State. Not using some of his bigger arms for more than an inning. He knew he had to have those guys this weekend. So I did enjoy that part of Mike's managerial night on Wednesday night, that he wasn't overusing anybody out of the pen there. Actually, I thought Mallett's looked pretty good. That's one that I did mean to bring up earlier in the show when we were talking about that state game. He looked a lot better than he has at his last few appearances. Hopefully that's something that can give him a little bit of confidence going forward. Slider looked a lot better to me. Now, I'm not a pitching coach or anything like that, obviously, but it did look a lot tighter to me. Didn't have that loop we talked about earlier in the year, to where you're able to pinpoint it coming out of his hand on the way to the plate. So, but yeah,
I think he's got to throw his fastball more, right? I think he's got to use his fastball
that's
more.
That's one thing me and you talked about 2-3 weeks ago, right? The slider hadn't been as good. Fastball has been good. Keep working off that fastball and just use that slider to get people out instead of trying to get ahead with it. That's something I would like to see a lot more of, and maybe I should have paid a little more attention to it Wednesday night to see if he was actually doing that or not. But we'll for sure see him this weekend against Auburn. That'll be one thing that I'll definitely be paying attention to. All right, Hitch, hit me with some of the over-unders you had. This is something new me and Hitch are going to try to do. We're going to come up with over-unders for players on the weekend. Just to, try to figure out what these guys are going to do and see how well we do with it here these last few weeks of the season.
Yeah, I've got 2, and then maybe another one.
Okay.
So we saw with the lefties, right, how they hit more home runs. We've got 2 guys that can leave the yard at any time, right? Will Furniss and Andrew Fisher. I'm setting at 1.5 for Will Furniss, 1.5 for Andrew Fisher. The kind of seasons that they've had, right? Andrew Fisher has probably been the more well-rounded, better all-around hitter. Furniss has had a hot streak that is scorching, right now. We know he can hit. We know what he did last year. So over under 1.5 bombs for Furniss and Fisher.
I will go. I'll go over on Furnace, under on Fisher.
That's how I was leaning.
Now I could see Fisher getting one. He's kind of in a tough spot right now. Did have a couple of hard hits though on Wednesday night and even a couple this past weekend in that series. So hopefully he's coming out of it. One thing I didn't realize about Furnace, we talked about it a little bit about how hot he's been in SEC play in particular, right? Which that was his thing freshman year, hit like 298 as a freshman in SEC play when he got to play. As well as I knew he was hitting as hot as he is, did you realize he was hitting 340 in SEC play this year?
I didn't. I hadn't looked at it SEC play. I knew that I know that he's barreling everything up. He looked a little, tough last night, a couple strikeouts, but as far as
he faced that lefty too, though, a couple times, and he just. But so I'm glad I kind of brought that up. I want to see us keep running him out there against lefties as well, though. He's got to be that kind of hitter to where he never comes out of the lineup. So he needs these at bats against lefties. It's going to be tough to get through it, but once he kind of gets the feel for it and sees enough left-handers, he works so much on his swing. He does so much extra practice stuff, that the more he sees it, he's going to be more prepared for it, and he's going to eventually hit lefties. So I want to keep running him out there against lefties, though. And I think he's been really good at first base defensively.
I think so too. He made a hell of a play last night on that line drive double play. I like Furnace. He's got some swag too. I love him. I love him. All right, so we talked about how bad we are in the field and everything. So I one of the things I was looking at last night after Mason Morris hit that guy was I think we average over a hit by pitch a game, right? So throughout the weekend, 3 games over hit by pitch, 3 hit by pitch. Let's say over under 5 hit by pitch all weekend.
Oh wow, that's a big
5.5. 5.5. Just because I like the hook.
I'll go under. I mean, that's just such a big number. I'm gonna have to go under on that. But God, if that thing goes over, then we are really in trouble. Like the wild pitches, the pass balls. I mean, we give up so many free bases, and that's not even taking into account all the walks we had as well. So, but man, 5.5 is a lot. So I'm gonna have to go under on that one. Where do you lean?
I think it goes over. I mean,
really?
I mean, it feels like we hit guys at such a high clip. I think it goes over, but I hope it stays under. And the last one, go ahead.
If you set the over under at 2.5 hit by pitch for whoever hits in front of Cooper McMurray, then I'll go over them.
Yeah, he's the one bright spot in that lineup.
It's him and Ike Irish.
So
they're both having really good years, but McMurray is really swinging it.
So McMurray should probably see a lot of good pitches and a lot of men on base ahead of him. Is probably what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's how it works.
But so the guy from Auburn said that their pitching stinks, right? We know our pitching. Right? I think there could be a bunch of runs scored in this series.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to say over under on the weekend, 30 runs.
Combine both teams?
Both teams, 30 runs. No, both teams, 30. 10 runs a game. Over?
Over. Yeah. God, yeah. Yeah, that might be about 10 runs too low. I mean, I think I thought about really that. Get out of hand offensively.
I hope so. But at the same time,
if we can't hit this pitching staff, then it's done. I mean, you're not hitting anybody at that point.
No. Yeah. I mean, I would go over here too. The problem is I'm afraid that it might be 15-0, 15-0, 1-0, right? You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it still gets you there. It doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there, right?
Yeah.
We've had enough college football and basketball to know that hitch.
It don't matter how you get there, just get me there.
That's right. That's right. So, all right. So before we get out of here, weekend prediction against Auburn. What do you got?
I've got. Well, I thought about this. I was. We have to sweep was my first thought. We have to sweep. Like this is the weekend all year. Well, not all year, but this is the weekend since like Kentucky. I've
Yeah.
been looking forward to. It's been like, can we take a breath here? Against all these guys, and unfortunately, we've played ourselves into a position where we can't. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think at minimum you have to go 2-1. I, I'm so low right now on this team. I think realistically we probably go 1-2. I'm gonna say I can't be positive. I can't be rah rah. I can't be we're gonna win the series like I have been
Mm-hmm.
until something changes. And so I think we win one of two. I think we win Saturday, and then I think we'll be in the game on Sunday, and we'll probably give it away late.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say we win 2 out of 3. Take this series, just because you absolutely have to. And look,
Mm-hmm.
2 out of 3 still isn't good enough. You have to sweep. But I have no confidence. There's nothing I've seen so far this year to lead me to believe that this team is going to end up sweeping somebody, in particular on the road. So I'll say the Rebels take 2 out of 3. And then keep just the smallest glimmer of hope for postseason play for the most optimistic people in the world. You will not hear me come on here on Sunday after that game if we only win 2 saying, all right, guys, we're still alive. That will not be me this time.
Hey
If you
man,
don't
what we
sweep this
were
weekend,
in 2022, we were 7-14 in the SEC.
yeah, yeah, but that team had bench of
That's the
Elko,
problem.
Graham, and
This team
DeLucia and
doesn't. Yeah.
Hunter. Yeah, yeah, and Mallett was an absolute dude that year. On top of that, too, Brandon Johnson, a lot of different, a lot of different guys on that team than this one here.
Oh, for
So,
sure, for
uh,
sure.
but yeah, yeah, if you don't win 3 this weekend, then I'm kind of out on the postseason play talk. Now, obviously, it won't be completely dead, won't be a nail in the coffin type thing, but they're going to have to prove it to me at that point. I won't be the one talking it into existence anymore. So for me to stay on that train, you got to win 3 this weekend uh, on the road against the worst team in the SEC. If you can't do that, then quite frankly, you probably don't deserve to be in the postseason anyway.
100% agree. They're
So,
gonna have to
all right.
sweep and take one from Texas A&M before I buy that ticket to that
Yes.
train again.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's got to happen. So, all right, everybody, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up there. Then we will see y'all again on Sunday after the series is over with. We'll hop back on here. Hopefully, be talking about a sweep.
Hope
But
so.
we're gonna sit back and we're gonna watch these games and see what happens. And hopefully the Rebels can keep their season going here. So appreciate y'all tuning in. Y'all can find us obviously on the SC After Dark YouTube channel, which a lot of y'all do, but you can also find us on Spotify. Dids in the Dugout on Spotify. Go over there and check us out there if that's your preferred listening method for podcasts. So you can find us there. We're going to work on getting on Apple and stuff like that as well. But right now, those are the 2 platforms you can find us on. So appreciate everybody stopping by, tuning in, and Hitch, we will talk to you here in a few days.
All righty. See you. Hotty
All
toddy.
right.